Hello everyone, we are Skeesh. Today we are going to be reacting to a video Tash Taste podcast put out, a quick clip they did called Sydney Used to Be Extremely Patriotic. Now, I don't really care for reaction videos personally, but I figured we'd do this one as to give a different light or opinion on being patriotic, being as we are both American, born and raised. Let's just jump right into it.
Like, I remember when I first started dating Sydney, right? I remember we, when we first met and first started dating, I remember early on, because she mentioned this to me the other day. I asked her, so what, like, out of curiosity, what do you actually think about America, right? And she was like, oh, greatest country in the world. And I remember
was she dead ass?
No, she was dead.
Okay.
She came from like imagine it. She came from like a small town in the Midwest, where you know,
when you first started.
Yeah, when I first started dating.
Yeah, right.
5-6 years ago.
Right.
Shit, 7 years ago now actually. But it was a long time ago. And I remember that was the first time she had basically like traveled out of America, and she came from a very small town in the Midwest who you know got raised with the values that you would expect a small town to get raised in. And I remember she said, oh yeah, America is the greatest country in the world, obviously. And I remember apparently she said, I was just like like that, and she said to me at the time, she got like genuinely offended, right? she straight up she got like genuinely angry at me at the time for doing that. She was like, what do you mean, why? And then why did you make that sound? She said to me. And I was like, so what constitutes the greatest country? And why is America the greatest country? And she was like, oh, land of the free, isn't it? We got freedom. And I was about to say, second, I'm like, you know, because like,
I was about to say, I was like, if she's about to drop the freedom bomb, like, I don't know what I can say to that.
No, because it's, to me at the time, it was just like living up to the stereotypical patriotic American. Because like, you know, America is a good country, you know, but like my issue is the more I travel, the more I'm just like, is there a greatest country in the world? And there's no way you can define the greatest country in the world. And
otherwise everyone would be living there.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And to me, patriotism as a British person is just so weird. Like you see it, I see like American patriotism where, you know, not saying every American like this, but like especially some of the Americans I met who were raised in small towns, especially when I go back to Sydney's hometown, it's just you see kind of like this culture that's been and this idea that's just been propagated through the small town, and there's not really been any other perspective to really change that perspective. So by their like they probably believe that America is the greatest country in the world, and there is no other thing that can challenge that. And it's just I can't blame them for that.
No, of course
and
not.
I'm not even saying America isn't the greatest country in the world. I'm just saying that because their belief has been permeated so deeply that there's been nothing to really break that mold for them. And it took years for Sydney to really kind of change her perspective. It didn't take like just one trip to England. It took years for her traveling to you know, living with me in England and living with me in Thailand and living with me in Japan, for her to like really open up her perspective to be like, you know what, maybe there are some other good places in the world as well. You know, maybe some other places do things as good. And now she has recently just gone back to America to visit her family. And she's like, wow, I really don't fit in here anymore.
Really?
Yeah, that's it felt weird because she told me that she just didn't feel like as settled as she used to be, just because she feels like an outsider almost.
Yeah, I definitely got that when I was back in Wales last time. I don't know. It's, you know, I love my hometown and I love my friends, but you definitely feel like, because you've been doing so many things and exploring so many different cultures, you definitely feel like, God, I must sound like that weird fucking GAPS student who come back like, I've traveled the world now. I'm better than all of you.
It's because I really don't want to sound like that.
Yeah, no, but it does open your perspective a lot, and you do think like, oh shit, like it really does make you look at stuff in your tiny town a lot different, and you know how homogenous it is.
The tiny town just feels so much more tinier, weirdly, and it's like, and you know, again, like I don't blame like Sydney or anyone from like the small towns who think that way, because again, like I feel especially in America, it really is just like kind of enclosed when it comes to the information that you can get about the rest of the world. Like it still blows my mind that like in America, for example, like 24-hour news channels are a thing, but it's not world news. It's American news for 24 hours.
Before they get into like the news thing, I wanted to touch on like kind of what Gar was saying. how like the small towns in America are generally like closed off and they kind of don't open up to outsider stuff. Even bigger cities like New York and LA, like a lot of cities like that, these small towns will look at them like they're from a different fucking planet. And that's just really interesting to like that he brought that up. And then Sydney grew up in a small town, so she just felt that way. And we're not. Are we?
Canton is like
town?
I wouldn't say like small town. It's like a decent sized small city.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we are. I feel like when you compare city and town, they're kind of like apples and oranges. Because to me, a town is this very small place where people are pretty connected and everyone kind of knows what's going on with other people. Whereas city is like, you know, when you think of like big city life, that's how I imagine a city. I mean, Canton it's decently like large.
It's pretty big.
I mean, I don't know a lot of the things that go on around here. So
It's weird because if you drive 20 to 30 minutes, like east or west or even south of where Canton is, you go through these small towns, and that is where small towns. I like every time we drive through them, I always think to myself that would suck to live here because not only is there nothing to do, but there's just like fields to see, and people are so spread out that they don't really. The only way they would get information is from if they had a cell phone, and a lot of older people live out there, so they're still like encapsulated in their small town because they have no reason to leave. They have their homestead, they have whatever Walmart's the closest to them, and they don't really go anywhere else because I guess they don't really feel the need to. But I thought it was weird too, because I don't know why this jogged my memory, but in grade school where we went, we would sing a patriotic song, either the national anthem. There's like 10. There's like 10 to 15
there's
songs.
a lot of American.
Like every single day, we would stand up, say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then sing a like patriotic song. And that was completely normal growing up. It was so normal. And then when I found out other countries didn't do that, I was actually kind of shocked.
It is weird. Like, yeah, we grew up with that, and that was like the norm. So if you would have like said to me in 7th grade, and you would have challenged my opinion of America not being the greatest country, I would have said you were wrong. Because like at that age, that's all I knew. So obviously, to people who are younger and can't get the exposure of other cultures or anything like that, obviously America is going to be the greatest country to them because that's how they're raised. It is ingrained in school, and like anything you do, football games, like anything, it's stand up, say the Pledge of Allegiance, or sing the national anthem at sporting events. Mm-hmm. And it's just it's really ingrained in you at a young age
that America is like the cream of the
crop. It is like the land of the free and the home of the brave. And like after being exposed to different things, I know that other countries have freedoms. Like we are not the only country that has freedoms.
Like these three specifically, like Australia and I don't know what to call England. I just call it England. Or
I just say the UK.
The UK. Those are free countries. A lot of things in Europe are like, we're not the only free country in the world. And it's weird to think that I once thought that.
Another weird thing about like America is I really can't name too many people who have ever left the country. And I can even name people who have never left their state.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like, that's crazy to me that someone would stay in one place for that long and not even want to go experience other things. I mean, maybe that just boils down to how they were raised with, well, what's the point of going to another place that's not as good as the place that I'm at now?
It's weird, especially with like being in America. Like it is a very, it gets called the boiling pot of the world. There's so many different cultures here, yet there's so many people that see it as like the only country in the world.
Yeah, I definitely would not say that I'm patriotic. I find it like cringy to be extremely patriotic. Even just someone flying like an something I see a lot is even around here in Canton, and especially if you travel out towards more rural areas, a ton of people fly American flags in their cars like all the time, and like big "Don't Tread on Me" flags. And people love politics. They are so lenient one way and just against the other way.
Well, I think where they're going now with the news, that just stems into politics so well.
And I'm like, what? It's just insane to think like this. For one, there's so much news happening in America that you can just constantly run news stories. Yeah. But also, like, there's just so little access or ease of access to information outside of America.
Same in the UK though. Really, we get trickle downs from America. We don't really get to see a lot of inside America. Like you know, a lot of British people don't really know many of the states outside of the very famous ones.
Oh, well, I'm sure it's the same in Australia as well, though.
Stuff like that. And we have very rudimentary knowledge of outside of Europe, really.
But do you guys have, like, world news on your TV?
Yeah,
we do.
News.
We do.
Yeah.
But, like, world news is just mostly... It's mostly the Middle East conflict. That, like,
stuff that we fucked up, really. Stuff that we had a hand in.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's rare that we hear anything about Japan or Asia in general, unless like something massive.
Well, because of the Olympics normally. But
Yeah.
Because BBC scarcely reports on Japan. Like, I have the BBC app and I used to have like the Japan section. They don't do like an article every like 3 days on Japan.
Oh, really?
And it'd probably be quite high profile stuff in Japan.
Yeah.
Or very wacky. Whoa. They open up a new store with M&Ms. Whoa. Yeah. But also, I do think as well, the fact that a lot of people think, one of the reasons why people probably think America is terrible is, you know, in the UK and also in Japan, I feel this as well, a lot of this, like, bad stuff and injustices, if you will, in the UK, and I think Japan as well, probably don't get as much spotlight as they do in America. And also, everything is fucking filmed in America.
True.
Literally everything is on camera in America.
True.
So, like, I feel like it's way easier to catch the stuff that makes your country look fucking insane.
Yeah.
When you know, there's cameras all the fucking time capturing everything. And I feel like one of the main reasons why we see so many insane stuff for America looks good and you hear about all these horrible injustices that have been done is because there's just so much video and there's so much attention brought to it by the media.
I mean, it's also as well the fact that, like, you know, just simply the population difference is one thing as well, but it's also, again, it's just like that whole cultural mentality, or I guess like group mentality of like, it's me versus the world, you know, not so much because, like, you know, it's very much an individualistic society where it's like, I'm the center.
I think we have that in the UK as well to some extent.
I think the UK way more. I think it's definitely like, that's definitely one of the biggest differences between East and West that I've felt living in both different places.
Yeah. And like, you know, whereas in Japan it's like, oh, I don't want to stick out too much because otherwise a camera might get stuck on me.
But it's hard, right? Because on one hand you get a society where, you know, everyone's comfortable, nobody oversteps their boundaries, but everyone's fucking miserable. So
exactly.
So it's like, you know, you can't have this utopian ideal Japan without also being having a depressed society where no one can have fun.
And I feel that's like the problem right now is that, like, regardless of if you're an individualistic society versus a collective society, there's still shit that happens.
Yeah, like
right?
the stuff I love about the UK is also, I'm near certain the stuff that I love is also the reason why we have a lot of the stuff I don't like about the UK.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
I mean, same thing with Japan, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's you don't get the good things without the bad things.
There's no perfect country. I think
there's no perfect country, and I don't think there's a perfect
Denmark's
system,
just like,
you know.
hello, allow me to.
Switzerland is like.
But also, I love that. I read an article that was like, people who live in Denmark that are unhappy are extremely unhappy because they're supposed to be the happiest country on earth.
Right.
Well, I guess we'll start with the news thing. That's kind of where we left off last time. News in America is a just cesspool of horrible garbage. What Anthony was saying earlier about politics and stuff, how people are so interested in, it's literally ingrained into their life. Like, people are brought up to be a certain side, and there's news channels dedicated to certain sides, which I didn't know that until I grew up. I thought news channel was just a news channel, but if you go to one, it's more on the right. If you go to another, it's on the left, and they're all fighting with each other, and they're just bringing up bad shit about one another, as opposed to really giving news.
All really the big news stations are just big slander fest. It's like, how much shit can we dish out to this other party that doesn't agree with us, and let's see what they say back so we can dish out more shit. I mean, that's really all like the news is. That's really what it boils down to. And I think a lot of people like take that at face value, and they're like, that's what I have to believe. This is what is happening. I think the news is just like such a toxic thing here in America. And it's extremely difficult to get an unbiased, accurate news source without really doing any digging. Because if you flip through like the first 10 channels of the TV, it's like all news, all of it. And your bigger news is just a shit show. It is horrible.
I mean, even with websites, like, have you noticed, even with websites, they're pretty biased. Like, we're avid Redditors, but Reddit seems to go to a certain direction, and you have to filter through everything to find out, like, what's true or not. And then it gets to a point where you don't know what's true or not, because you hear one thing, and then you hear another, and then which side do you believe? So it makes it very difficult for people that aren't super interested, or for lack of a better term, care. They just kind of want updated on what's going on. It makes it more difficult. Like they were saying, I think Joey said, like, ease of access or lack thereof. Like, I'll bring up Reddit again. If you get on like just the news portion on your homepage, it's all American news, all of it.
Even if you go to like the world news tag, a ton of those are still American news.
Yeah. Like, you have to subscribe to certain subreddits just to get that news. You have to know what you're looking for. Like with Japan news or just our Japan, because we're interested in that. You have to specifically look for it. If you don't, you're not going to find it. So it makes it harder for Americans to just look outside the bubble when the bubble has a lead casing and you have to quite literally weld or dig your way out of it. So it makes it a lot harder.
The thing about the information, like lack thereof and ease of access, it's kind of like a double-edged sword here, because like I said, the first like 10 channels of the TV are news, which is like the ease of access, and then lack thereof is a reliable news source where you can get things that you know are true. So it's like you can get the news, but you don't know what the fuck you're reading, and you don't know if it's correct or not, or if it's totally just slander.
Continue.
Like, hello, allow me to.
Switzerland is like.
But also, I love that. I read an article that was like, people who live in Denmark that are unhappy are extremely unhappy because they're supposed to be the happiest country on earth.
Right.
Yeah.
So the people who get sad there, or their life isn't going the way they want, they feel more depressed because they're supposed to be in the happiest
everyone
place
around
on
them is happy.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be in the happiest place on earth.
Right,
So you can't fucking win. Like, no matter what goes wrong, you can't win. But I think obviously if that also depends on if you can afford to be healthy and all that stuff. So that all changes. Obviously.
Yeah,
Being healthy is pretty good.
Are you guys patriotic?
No.
Only in like sport, I guess.
To Wales?
Yeah.
Wales,
Like pretty much
yes.
the most patriotic I get is towards sports.
Yeah.
I think.
But like you have to okay. So I think Wales patriotic and being in the UK is a very different.
how often do you get to be patriotic about Wales?
Anytime England fucks up. That's
Basically,
You're
right?
just like, I'm not.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
So that's what I'm saying. It's not. Patriotism in Wales is not like the rest of the world patriotism, where it's
No.
like go us. It's just fuck England.
Yeah,
Like, that's-
I feel like that's just
literally
that's
all
just
it is.
Wales, Scotland, and Irish,
Yeah.
like Northern Irish patriotism.
Right, that's why I
Yeah.
feel like UK patriotism is a completely different brand to other,
Yeah.
because it's we get very proud of Welsh people, obviously, but we get the most proud when it is to the detriment of England.
Yeah.
So when people are like, oh, you're like English there, right? It's like, no, I'm not even. There's absolutely nothing about me that is English. I'm British and Welsh, but not English.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
a lot of people are always like, that's English, right? That's no. I despise, but I despise it in a very fun way.
Yeah,
it's
of
very
course.
much like we
Like
get
tongue
to
in cheek.
Yeah.
You mentioned we're not very patriotic, are we?
No, like I said, in like 7th grade, if you would have asked me if I'm patriotic, I would have said America is the greatest country in the world, and I would have been very adamant about that. But growing up and seeing different cultures and different things and experiencing a lot more and just gaining knowledge, I'm like, oh, this place has its problems and other places do things like we do wrong, right, and vice versa. And they were saying like there is no greatest country. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I don't think America is the greatest country. I don't think any country is the greatest country. I think wherever you're at, of course it's going to have its problems and it's going to do things right the same way. So,
You know what's weird about like the whole patriotism thing? There's literally on the radio, if you listen at 12 o'clock noon, every single day they will play the national anthem.
what station?
Country.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
That is like
every single day at 12 o'clock noon on the dot, they will play the national anthem.
that is so strange.
Yeah.
I had no idea about that.
I remember the first time I heard it. I was in the car and the radio was on. I'm like, what the hell is the national anthem doing? And then the guy I was with took his hat off. I was like, what is going on? We're in the car going to lunch. Why are we singing the national anthem and your hat's off?
That's the thing, like, patriotism in America is exactly like politics. It's either you are patriotic and you're very patriotic, or you're not patriotic at all. Like, finding a middle ground, like, yeah, I love my country, it's amazing, but I also see that it really has problems. That, like, almost doesn't exist.
And if you do, like, kind of sway in the middle,
You're shit on by both sides.
Yeah, people just hate you. They either tell you to get out or, well, they'll both tell you to get out. I guess.
Yeah, like, you go, well, I kind of see it this way, and, well, sure, the country's cool and all, but the patriotic people will say, you don't appreciate this, get the fuck out. The unpatriotic people will say, I can't believe you think this country has things good with it, get the fuck out. Or stay here, I don't know, but there really is no, like, middle ground with it. It is so one way or the other. It's extremely, like, frustrating when you do, like, I don't even know. I try not to, like, egg people on or engage in things like that, where if someone's talking about, like, patriotism or just shitting on something, I just tend to keep my mouth shut. I want absolutely no part of that. It is just a headache either way, and there is no convincing someone that you're of your opinions. Like, they are so set in their ways, me arguing back with them is not going to change anything.
Yeah.
It's just going to make them upset.
That's another thing about Americans is a lot of them, not everyone, there's open-minded people, not only here but all over the world, but a lot of people are just so dead set in their ways. It's one lane or that's it. Like, if you could tell them the sky is blue, and if they say it's green and want to think it's green, it'll be green to them. Like, you can't change their opinion. They're just so dead set on the way they feel, which can be a good thing, I guess, at times, but when it comes down to things like that, I don't really see it as a good thing. I see it as toxic. And when you have people like that telling others or their kids or their grandparents or whatever that same thing, I think it kind of breeds this form of toxic patriotism. I don't really think it's healthy. But I like America. I love living here, honestly. It's really cool. It's a huge country. There's so much, literally so much to do. You could never do it in a lifetime. You could go to Alaska and see a glacier, get on a flight. Next thing you know, you're in Florida on a beach. Like, there's not a lot of places you could do that.
I mean, shit, California has, like, mountaintop peaks with snow, deserts, and beaches.
Yeah.
I mean, it has all the geography.
Like, there's awesome things about America, and a lot of the people here are really awesome. You could go into Starbucks and have a conversation with someone and walk away with a new best friend or a new enemy. But there's just so many different things about America that make it really cool, and there's also a lot of things that don't make it so great. And to say it's the best country in the world, I don't agree with at all. But it is a wonderful country to visit and both to live.
I think people need to just explore other cultures and attempt to see things from another perspective, because that's something a lot of people don't do. Mm-hmm. Like we said, if you're dead set on your ways, you're dead set on your ways. And something that even, like, I struggle with, sure, is putting myself in someone else's shoes and seeing from their perspective. But it's such an eye-opening thing when you can do that. You're like, oh, okay, like, maybe I had a point, but they also have a point. And it's nice to meet in the middle, not shit on each other, and just go, okay, here's where we stand. I respect your opinion, you respect mine. Let's move on with our day. That would just be such a refreshing thing to be able to do with someone, instead of getting this argument back and forth that accomplishes literally nothing.
Yeah, like, you could have a bumper sticker on your car and someone could think you're a complete idiot. And there's no change in their opinion just because of what maybe a bumper sticker says. I think for us, since we have a very big interest in Japan, a lot of people have seen that as weird because it's not, I guess, normal. Have you picked up on that at all?
Oh, when we were planning on going to Japan in early 2020 before we had to cancel. I put in vacation time for work, and both of my bosses came out and were like, "Why the hell do you want to go to Japan?" I'm like, I just want to. I want to go visit. They're like, okay. They were like weirded out that I wanted to go visit another country and just go. Like, you don't have a purpose to go? I'm like, not really. I just want to go see things and eat food and maybe meet people, have a good time outside of these 50 states.
Yeah, like I've had countless people ask me, like when I did go to Japan, they'd be like, "Why Japan?" I'm like, because it's just a 180 from here. Like there's a complete 180 from Japan to here, and it's just interesting to learn so much about it. You know, I get home and you probably do the same thing. Every single, like I watch a lot of Japan videos, and every single video I'm taking something away and learning about the country, the history, the culture, the foods, something new, something stimulating that I don't know and that I wouldn't get here if I didn't look outside the box.
The patriotism it's like generational. Like if your parents are very patriotic, of course they're going to raise you to be patriotic. And that small town, again, is just lack of like exploration and wanting to gain knowledge of other places and other cultures and other things in general. So of course they're obviously going to think that like this country is the greatest thing in the world because they're not thinking about other countries. That is just something they don't think about. And especially like a place like Japan, like they said in the video, finding news on Japan is very difficult. And they summed it up really well. The only like outside news we get that is not about the US really is about the Middle East. Because of course like we went in there and fucked things up. Getting to a place like Southeast Asia as a whole, I would say, is just not reported on besides China. China is like the thing here.
I think at the end of the day, patriotism's cool. I think it's good to be proud of something, whether it be your country, your football team, or whatever the hell it is. It's not a bad thing. You can be proud of something, but there's a line that you can cross to where it becomes not so great, where it becomes annoying and toxic. Weird. Yeah, to where it becomes weird.
Like my biggest like argument for it is like I didn't get to choose where I was born, so it's kind of weird to just wake up in a place and go, yeah, this is the greatest place in the world. Like I had absolutely no choice on where I was going to be born. I just happened to wind up in Ohio in the United States. I could have ended up in Europe, the Middle East, Asia, Africa, anywhere. And I just think it's kind of weird that you're born into this place that you had no decision over and you just latch onto it and make it the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, it's a piece of land. You were just born in a piece of land. That's all it is.
I would say at the end of the day, like I don't think everything we've covered has been, I would say, fairly negative. So, I mean, if that's what people get out of this, I don't think that should be the case. America is an awesome country, like you said. It has a lot of good things. I don't think it should really deter anyone from like wanting to visit. There's a lot of cool things to see and do, and like Alex said, you can meet a lot of cool people. Don't fall into the trap of one way or another. Like open-mindedness is probably the best thing.
Just have an open mind. Don't be an asshole. And then if you aren't from here, come visit. If you like it, stay. You're more than welcome. So that was our reaction, I guess. I hope someone took something away from it. I just thought it'd be kind of a cool perspective as two Americans who've born and raised here and who kind of see things in the middle ground as opposed to leaning on one side or the other. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you think about patriotism in the comment section down below. If you're an American, what do you think about it? If you're not, how do you see it from an outside perspective, and what is it like in your country?